Welcome back to Tell Me More with me, CJ Quarterbaum. Tell Me More exists to talk about Gen Z, leadership, and preparing for the future. I'm a writer, a speaker. I've been doing this for many years, and today we're going to focus on leadership because I think it is one of the most important topics out there. I've talked about this before. I think where we sit right now is in a place of a crisis of leadership. The people that we seem to be admiring, that we pedestal, that we want to emulate, don't always exemplify the best leadership skills and practices. And if we're honest, a lot of us falter in our own leadership, whether that be at home or in the workplace or in our friend groups. And I think that for where we are in life, we need to figure out, what does it mean to be better leaders? Now, that is a big question because I say that and your mind probably goes to a million different places. But here's what I'm going to give you today. Five leadership values. 5 traits that I think might be amongst the most important for leaders. The first one is empathy. Now, this might sound crazy or out of the way, but I think empathy is one of the most important leadership characteristics there is. Empathy is simply this ability to understand people. It is to see what they feel and how they're feeling and to sit with them in it. It is to acknowledge it. It is to recognize that we don't exist or live in a vacuum, and therefore to display empathy is to show the person in front of you care. I've worked for people who have proudly said to me, I don't do emotions. I'm a low empathy person, as though that's something to be said with a badge of honor. In reality, the empathetic leader is the leader that people will follow. The empathetic leader is the one who communicates to those that follow them, I actually care about you. And when people feel cared for, they want to follow you. The second very important leadership trait that I want to highlight today is humility. Humility, I think, often gets this bad rap, right? You have people who ascend to these really high positions and they think, I have to have all the answers. I have to be the one who knows everything. Humility is not saying that. Humility actually, it's the ability to say, I don't know everything. Humility is the ability to say that I don't have all the answers, and that is okay because I am going to entrust the people that I've hired. I'm going to entrust my team to do their jobs. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but it might be thinking of yourself less. I've worked for too many leaders who are quite positive that their ideas are the only ideas that matter, who think that their ideas are the ones that are valid. And no matter what protests may come or no matter how people might try to poke holes in them, no, they don't want to hear it. It's my ideas and my ideas only. But humble leadership seeks to elevate those around them. Humble leadership does not look at people as trying to take their spot or sit on their corner. Instead, humble leadership looks and says, how can I put you in the best position to flourish and not view you as a threat? Number 3 is clarity. Now, I don't know if a lot of leaders realize just how important clarity is. You see, I've worked for people who believe that they clearly communicated the vision, and yet most of their team didn't understand the vision and they were upset. See, vision leaks. Any organization you're a part of will experience this idea where you have a vision, you have an aim, you know what you're going for, but somehow people just forget because we get caught up in doing other things. We have other opportunities that come in front of us. This is when you experience mission drift. And this is why vision constantly needs to be reiterated. Good leaders are clear about where you're going, why you're going there, and they're clear in their communication. I've worked for leaders who every single time they've had a conversation with someone and they've given directives, there was a gap between what they said and what the person heard. Now, this can only happen so many times before you start to say this is a them problem and not a you problem. So what does it look like for you to grow in clarity in your leadership? To take a step back and say, my team seems to constantly not be getting the messages that I'm putting forth. Therefore, is there a deficiency in me? Is there something I'm doing wrong? And if so, how can I close that gap? How can I become more clear in what I'm trying to communicate? And this leads to character trait number 4. It is conviction with flexibility. Now, I think this one is really important because as a leader, as you're moving toward greater clarity in your communication and in your vision and in your mission, that is going to require some conviction. There are principles and beliefs that you are going to need to stand on. There are, ideas that you're going to hold with a tight fist. And that is okay. But also, if we're factoring in humility, if we're factoring in empathy, then we recognize the need to be flexible in those things. Now, there are going to be things we hold with a closed fist that we don't bend on. But is everything a die for issue? Is every hill worth dying on? So you have to look at your team as you want to empower them and encourage them. And you say to them, hey, this is the sandbox that we're going to play in. Go, play, do whatever you want to do within these bounds. As long as we're aiming toward the same thing, as long as we're reaching the mission that we have in front of us, go. But the worst thing you can do is give your team, we'll use Legos. I've got young kids, so I step on Legos a lot. You can give your kids a box of Legos with a set of instructions. And you can take that box of Legos with that set of instructions, and you can say to them, build what the instructions have. That's cool. Or you can give them a box of Legos and say, build whatever you want. You have all of the tools. Go, run wild, use your imagination. What often happens is that leaders will give you the Legos, tell you to go build, do whatever you want, but they have a picture in mind, whether it's the picture on the box or it's something else. And when you come back from those unclear directions with something that they didn't want, they then get upset with you. What you more likely want to do is you want to give your team the Legos and say, hey, we're trying to build something that looks like this. You don't have to follow the instructions bar for bar, but ultimately, this is where we are trying to go. This is our conviction. I'm flexible in how we get there. Because now people feel empowered. People feel like they have a space and place here. They feel like their ideas and their contributions matter. And you might just find new ways of doing things. Number 5, and I think this one is so important. It is self-awareness. You have to know who you are, beloved. What makes you tick? What gets you excited? You have to understand that wherever you go, there you are. What's your trauma? What are your issues? What have you been working through? Because we've all got some mess. You have to think about how work affects home and home affects work, all of those things, because that walks in the door with you. If you're having a bad day and you suddenly snap at one of your employees or you snap at one of your students, can you recognize, are you self-aware enough to go, hey, I'm not mad at them, I'm mad at this thing that happened before? There's this comedian, I don't remember who it was, who had this great joke where he talked about getting in a road rage incident. And the guy pulls over and they get out the car and they start yelling at each other and the guy just whoops him, right? Completely whoops him. And he goes, I realized as he was beating my head in, he's not mad at me. He probably had a bad day at home. And you know what? I'm just the recipient of the anger at that other thing. So I forgive him in this moment as he's beating my head in. Obviously, the comedian delivered that joke in a much better way than I did, but it illustrates the point that a lot of the times what we're upset with, what's bothering us, what's frustrating us is coming in to the workplace with us. It's coming into our different areas of life. And someone will do something that sets us off. And in reality, it could be the smallest of things. And we're not even mad at that. We're mad at the thing over here. Self-awareness is important. Know your weaknesses, know your strengths, your opportunities, your areas for growth, because that will make you a better leader. And the last thing, I'm going to give you a bonus because this is YouTube and the Substack only got 5. The bonus is range. I think every good leader has range. If you're unfamiliar with this concept of range, I picked it up from the book Range by David Epstein. It's about being a generalist in a world of specialists. Now, the reason that range is so important is because range gives you different inputs. It gives you different ideas to different gifts, skills, and experience to pull on in your leadership. He's got this great stat in the book. It's something like 90% of Nobel Prize winners in science are also world-class artists. And you would almost think to yourself, you won a Nobel Prize in science. This must mean all you do is science and science-related things. But in reality, it's what they learn in the art world, whether that's musically or painting or drawing or sculpting, whatever. It fires the neurons in their brain in such a different way that it gives them different inputs to draw on that they bring into their main work. So if your life is all about work and your entire identity is all about what you do, to the point where your job is not what you do, it's who you are, that's a problem. And my advice to you would be, go get some hobbies. Go see some things outside of your normal world and see how that opens up your ability to lead in a much better way. Now, those are my top 5 leadership character traits and skills with a bonus one, but I'm sure you have some that I missed. So drop it in the comments below. What would you say are your top 5? Give me your top 5 leadership skills, traits, characteristics, whatever, that I think translate over just into who we are, making us better humans in this world. Like, comment, do all the things, and come back next week as I ask you to tell me more.